what I'm looking at is, what if you spent 2 days where you monitored, where you maintained, and you managed everything you did, but then the other 5 days were all about living on point and purpose to make a true impact in everything that you did. Good morning.
Good morning.
5-day weekend. Yeah. That's not about like, someone said, oh, it's like 4-hour work week on steroids. I'm like, well, no, it's not, because that would be like, be more frugal, outsource more things. Like, it's really about, hey, let's show you how to keep a lot more of every dollar you make without budgeting. That's where we start. Then, let's go to the next biggest advantage. Make a lot more money. And then worry about growing your money, which is where most financial books start, is they go right to the grow your money, and then invest back into yourself and expand everything that you're doing. So that's kind of the 4-part framework of that book. And I feel like we've been taught this industrial mindset for so long that we've kind of adopted it even though the economy's changed, and people are still living in this kind of, work 5 days a week, take 2 off, but a lot of entrepreneurs, it's more like work 7 days a week, try to run faster and make more money. And instead, what I'm looking at is, what if you spent 2 days where you monitored, where you maintained, and you managed everything you did, but then the other 5 days were all about living on point and purpose to make a true impact in everything that you did. And having the financial structure to completely support that so that you felt 100% empowered. You would eliminate one of the greatest destroyers of all wealth, which is scarcity. Scarcity is a place where people are in fear, they're in doubt, they're in worry, they're in concern, or they live in entitlement, or they look to take more from the world than they give. These are the people and the patients that aren't willing to pay for the treatments to get healthy. They just want whatever their insurance company is going to give, right? It's the wrong mindset. It's part of the epidemic which we're facing here in society. And I'm here to make sure that we abolish that, and instead we embrace economic independence. And economic independence is when you have enough recurring revenue that comes from one of 2 sources to cover your basic lifestyle expenses. The first thing is your investment income. We've somehow adopted this erroneous notion that we should just scrimp, sacrifice, and save, and then if we just wait long enough, take enough risk, and add enough money, that age 65 we can so-called retire. Well, if you're gonna live to 200, that is a long-ass retirement, by the way, that inflation is just gonna kick your ass the whole time. Reagan said I shouldn't swear until 10 seconds in, so I made it till like 2 minutes. I'm really proud of myself. I said I'd use like Utah swear words like hell or heck, Like, and that's, I was speaking in Utah once and I said hell, and someone said that would have been amazing. That was an amazing presentation. It could have been better if you did one thing different. I'm like, enlighten me. You didn't have to swear. I'm like, no, I actually was really deliberate not to swear. She goes, you said HE double hockey sticks. I wish I could make this up. This is really what happens here in Utah. I've lived here for a long time. So, economic independence comes from one of 2 sources, investment income, which, what if your mindset in investing shifted to purely you only invest for cash flow purposes until you reach economic independence, and any other investment outside of that isn't worth your time unless it's your business? Okay? See, there's so many distractions that are gift wrapped that look like opportunities. Cryptocurrency, real estate deals that are complicated that you don't understand, tax liens, stock options, I could go on, oil and gas, whatever it is. And if you don't understand it, you don't know it, it's not an investment, it's a gamble. And the problem is there's too many people suffering from health issues in this world for you to gamble with your money, because it requires money to really make a major impact, because you have to hire people, you have to take care of yourself, you have to enjoy life along the way. And if you don't have money, then there's a lot of stress, unfortunately, or you can't hire the right people, you can't invest into marketing, you can't do the things that really can make an extraordinary impact. So the second thing that creates economic independence is entrepreneurial-based income. Entrepreneurial-based income is not the income when you're with a patient. It's the income that comes in even if you're not in the office. So I don't use the word passive income. Some financial people do, and I guess we do a little bit just to keep it simple in 5-day weekend, but we have something called a passive income index, which says there's nothing that's truly passive unless you're part of the lucky sperm club. and then you just inherit money maybe, but you probably still have to like listen to some stories you don't want to hear, and maybe like go to some family functions that aren't always the best to get that. There's some, it's not purely passive. But recurring revenue is more about cash flow that you still pay attention to, that you're still responsible for. It's just that you're not on a moment by moment, day by day basis having to do something to have that come in. So it has some leverage, it has some scale. So entrepreneurial income and investment income, if that can start covering your basic expenses, you have this amazing advantage. Like there's, one of my early mentors has a podcast called 10 Times, Dan Sullivan. I know there's, someone sent me a 10 Times book that I never read by Cardone, like there's all this kind of 10 times talk out there. And I think it's awesome to have 10 times thinking, but I'm just gonna give you the practical way to get to 10 times. Because you can take 10% of your income and try to earn 10%, so now you're getting a fraction of a fraction, and they're gonna tell you it's gonna take 30 years, and the only time you know that doesn't work out is when you get to the end of the rainbow, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this sucks, the market didn't cooperate, or there were a lot of hidden fees that I didn't recognize, or I didn't save as much as I thought I thought I needed to save less, but it looks like I need to save more. And then what's just so smug and stupid, I'm on one this morning, I could already feel it, is that there's these financial people, they'll be like, how much money do you think you need in the future? Do we really have any freaking clue? Like, how do we know? Like, if I interview people in the 80s, I was really young at the time, but if I interviewed people in the 80s and I was like, how much money would be good to have in retirement? The most common answer would be $200,000 or $250,000 in a retirement plan. What the hell is that gonna do for you now? Nothing. So like, let's forget this notion of how much you need in the future, and let's start thinking from optimization, maximum output, the very best that you can do, as much as possible within legal, boundaries, essentially. That's the better way to focus on it, Unfortunately, there's no magic pill out there or magic product. So there's no financial product that you guys can just go buy and you're wealthy. If there were, I wouldn't have this job, I guess. I'd be doing something else. So economic independence is this 10 times factor, because it means that all of your lifestyle and living expenses, you don't have to work for. You just have to monitor and manage to maintain that. So imagine what can happen if 100% of your active income could be reinvested into your vision, into the right people for your practice, into the right processes for you to make it more efficient, into the right technology to get even more leverage and advancement. That's a 10 times advantage. Because everyone else still has that mindset of only having a certain amount of money that they can afford because of scarcity on what they invest in their practice. This is a plague throughout the health practitioners that I see, where they don't hire the very, very best because they hire someone that's less expensive, yet the less expensive person produces, according to Steve Jobs, 1/100th of the very best. He said that that was his number one advantage in the world, is that he would just hire the very best and they would outproduce the second best 100 times. He said nowhere else could you find that kind of return. Or IBM did a study and said it was 5,200% that the A-teamers outproduced the B-teamers.